Supreme Allied Commander is the title held by the most senior commander within certain multinational military alliances. It originated as a term used by the Western Allies during World War II, and is currently used only within NATO. The current NATO Supreme Allied Commander is U.S.General Curtis M. World War II. During World War II, the Allied leaders appointed Supreme Allied Commanders to manage the multinational, multidisciplined fighting forces for a particular theater of war. These Supreme Allied Commanders were given operational control over all air, land, and sea units in that theater. In other cases, senior commanders were given the title Commander-in-Chief. These Supreme Allied Commanders were drawn from the most senior leaders in the British Armed Forces and United States Armed Forces. These commanders reported to the British-American Combined Chiefs of Staff, although in the case of the Pacific and Southeast Asia, the relevant national command authorities of the American Joint Chiefs of Staff or the British Chiefs of Staff Committee had responsibility for the main conduct of the war in the theater, depending on the Supreme Commander's nationality. General of the Army Dwight Eisenhower served in successive Supreme Allied Commander roles. Eisenhower was the Commander-in-Chief, Allied Force for the Mediterranean Theater. Eisenhower then served as Supreme Commander, Allied Expeditionary Force in the European Theater, starting in December 1943 with the creation of the Command to execute the Battle of Normandy and ending in July 1945, shortly after the end of World War II in Europe. In 1951, Eisenhower would again be a Supreme Allied Commander, the first to hold the post for NATO. Field Marshal Henry Maitland Wilson succeeded Eisenhower in the Mediterranean Theater, given the title Supreme Allied Commander Mediterranean. Wilson was succeeded by Field Marshal Harold Alexander, who continued in charge of those Allied forces until the end of the war. Admiral of the Fleet Lord Louis Mountbatten was Supreme Allied Commander Southeast Asia throughout most of its existence. He replaced General Archibald Wavell. General of the Army Douglas MacArthur was appointed Supreme Allied Commander, Southwest Pacific Area on the 18th of June 1942. However, he preferred to use the title Commander-in-Chief. During the Allied occupation of Japan following the war, MacArthur held the title of Supreme Commander for the Allied Powers, NATO. The term came into use again with the formation of NATO in 1949. In 1952, Allied Command Europe was established, led by Dwight D. Eisenhower. He became the Supreme Allied Commander Europe. Soon afterwards, Allied Command Atlantic was established at Norfolk, Virginia, under U.S. Navy Admiral. His title was Supreme Allied Commander Atlantic, and the entire command was usually known as SACLANT. Both Supreme Commander have, until 2009, been American, with a deputy commander from another NATO member, though only British and Germans have held the post. In June 2003, the commands were reshuffled. One command was given responsibility for operations, and one for transforming the military components of the alliance to meet new challenges. In Europe, Allied Command Operations was established from the former Allied Command Europe, and given responsibility for all NATO military operations worldwide. However, for legal reasons, SACEUR retained the traditional title including Europe. In the United States, SACLANT was decommissioned and Allied Command Transformation established. The headquarters of actors at the former SACLANT headquarters in Norfolk, Virginia, USA. Each has a Supreme Allied Commander as its commander. Allied Command Operations has its headquarters at Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe, at Mons, Belgium. It is headed by the Supreme Allied Commander, Europe, a U.S. 4-star general or admiral with the dual-hatted role of heading U.S. European Command. The current commander is General Curtis M, who succeeded General Philip M. Breedlove. Allied Command Transformation is located in Norfolk, Virginia, USA. It is headed by the Supreme Allied Commander. Transformation, a 4-star general or admiral. Signed 2009. This position has been held by a French Air Force officer. The commander of the organization is General Denis Mercier of the French Air Force, who succeeded General Jean-Paul Palameros. General Stéphane Abriel, the commander from 2009 until 2012, was the first non-American to hold a Supreme Commander role within NATO.